broody hen who just wants to be sitting on eggs right now. So she's not cooperating, but might have to put her down. But we had an important PSA to tell you about. Oh my goodness. This is Sage. Sage is being really, really bad. She's one of my 2 broody hens, and I thought I'd give her a break from sitting on the nest. But apparently she didn't want to break. Anyway, yeah, I'm dealing with 2 broody hens right now. All right, here, go. Be broody. Anyway, that wasn't what the PSA was about. What the PSA was about was that we are headed into a heat wave over the next couple of days. I don't know about you, but we're here in Maine. It doesn't get over 90 degrees, but a few days each year. And it looks like this weekend, Monday, Tuesday, are going to be the days. So it's going to be super important to keep my chickens healthy and safe during the sudden heat wave. When we lived in Virginia, we were used to the heat. I had a fan in the coop. The coop was in the shade, tons of ventilation. I kept electrolytes on hand all the time. So we were ready. We were ready for the heat all summer long. But when you live somewhere where it doesn't generally get hot, it can be a little bit more challenging. Your chickens aren't used to the heat. And your coop, like ours, is in full sun here in Maine because most of my concern is keeping it warm in the winter. So when it gets hot, the coop gets really, really hot, and it gets well over 100 degrees inside the coop when it gets hot, when we have a heat wave. So I just wanted to give you a couple tips. I'm going to put the link down below so you also can read, if you want to read the blog post about it. But basically, during a heat wave, you are going to want to make sure your chickens have plenty of shade, plenty of cool water. Chickens don't drink warm water. So you want to make sure that their water is in the shade, but not only that, the water is eventually going to warm up to air temperature. So you want to keep changing it out with cool water throughout the day. You can even put some ice cubes in the water. I like freezing things in the ice cubes, some mint or blueberries or strawberries. You can even just freeze berries and throw them in the water. If you're working and you're not going to be home all day, you might want to freeze like a half-gallon milk container or a water bottle, put that in their water, because you want to make sure the chickens have cold water all day long. All summer, but definitely in a heat wave. You might also want to put up some shade. I use shade cloth. I get it on Amazon. Air does get through it, but you can put up tarps, old shower curtains, just something to make some more shade. But you want to make sure that you don't block the airflow. So like in the winter, broodies are going to be the death of me. In the winter, I wrap the sides of my run because I want to keep the wind out, give them a wind block, but I just want to let the sun in through the top because whatever sun there is, it's going to keep them warm. So in the winter, I wrap the sides of my run. In the summer, I wrap more the top because the sun is also higher in the sky, but I want to keep them shaded, but I still want air to get in through the sides. So you definitely don't want to wrap your run in tarps or in shower curtains or something in the summer. You want to let airflow get through with shade. I also have, I've been still working on it because we're fairly new to Maine. We've only been here 6 years, but I'm working on planting some lilac bushes outside the run so they will provide natural shade, but also still, you know, the wind can get through. So anyway, shade, cool water. You don't want to be chasing your chickens. You don't want the kids to be chasing the chickens or dogs. I do like to let my chickens out to free range during a heat wave. One reason is there's less of a chance of predator attacks. When it's hot, all animals kind of hunker down. So it's going to be very rare. I'm not going to say it won't happen, but it's going to be very rare to see like a fox or something out during the day during a heat wave because they're just trying to stay cool too. My chickens have a better chance of finding a cool place if they can find it on their own. You know, in the run, they're sort of limited to what they can do, where they can go outside. You know, they like to dig holes in the dirt. The dirt underneath is cooler, so they'll go under a bush. They'll find a place where there's a nice breeze. So I absolutely do try to free range my chickens more. Ooh. The heat isn't quite here yet. We have the wind at the moment. I try to free range my chickens more during a heat wave than I normally would. I also put out water in multiple places for them, so they have a couple different choices. It has been so windy this summer. Of course, I'm not on solid ground either. The wind feels nice though. Best laid plans. So shade, cool water. You don't want to stress your chickens out. I also like to stock up on watermelon, cucumbers, cantaloupe, honeydew, any kind of treats with a really high water content. That's the kind of things you want to be giving them. They're not going to eat very much food at all, so don't panic if your chickens don't eat much when it gets hot. They can go for a couple days without eating. They won't, but as long as they have the water to drink, and the watermelon, they're gonna love that. Cucumbers, you can chill them. My run is also predator proofed. We did a lot of work on it, sunk the wire underneath, it's covered, it's all welded wire, so it's as predator proof as a run possibly could be, which is not 100% because runs are very hard to keep completely safe. But I do like to let the ducks especially sleep outside of the coop during a heat wave. When you lock everybody up in the coop, it gets really, really, really warm in there. So I do like to just leave the little door open. The chickens usually will go into the roost anyway, no matter how hot it is. And I try to encourage them to stay outside. We have little roosts outside for them, but they, by their nature, and they're just used to going into the coop. So they probably will still sleep in the coop, but the ducks will absolutely sleep outside when it's hot, which is great. At least that takes their body heat out of the coop. They'll stay a lot cooler. So that's an option if you can possibly do it, only if your run is, completely predator proof, welded wire, 1/2-inch holes, so weasels can't get in, or rats. I have blinking solar predator lights around the perimeter, so I feel pretty confident when it's hot like that, letting them sleep outside. So that's basically, electrolytes. I do have a recipe on my website for electrolytes. I do like to add them during heat wave, just like, athletes, or, if you have a baby that needs Pedialyte, the electrolytes can help the chickens gain back some of what they're losing. Chickens don't sweat, but they do pant, and they do emit basically what you would sweat out. They emit it through their mouth when they're panting. So they do lose their minerals and nutrients and stuff. So electrolytes in the water can definitely help. I like to freeze the electrolytes into ice cubes, put those in the water. Basically anything you can do. Chickens have a really, really hard time in the heat. So people get all freaked out in the winter that their chickens are going to be cold, and honestly, chickens do cold really well. It's the heat that they have problems with. So anything you can do for them is going to be helpful, especially during a sudden heat wave in places where you're not used to the heat. So just be aware. I will put the link down below so you can read more. So most of what I said is also true for ducks. The ducks will benefit from the watermelon and the treats and the shade, and that ducks obviously have a kiddie pool. So the ducks actually do pretty well in the heat because they just jump in their pool and they swim all day. So that's, the ducks. So they are a lot more heat tolerant than chickens are. But chickens can die of heat exhaustion. So just be aware if you do have a chicken that's not doing well. Sorry, the wind keeps blowing my tripod over. If the chicken is, just like standing there listless, or really, really they pant to stay cool. So don't freak if your chickens are panting, or your ducks. But if she seems to be panting excessively, holding her wings out, not looking like she's doing well, a little wobbly, or maybe even laying down with her eyes closed, you want to get her inside somewhere where it's cool, into the air conditioning, or into a cool room, a garage, or a cellar, or something like that. You want to put her feet into cool water. Just her feet. You don't need to dunk the whole chicken, but just her feet into cool water is probably the quickest way to cool her down. Chickens also emit body heat out of their combs. So your chickens with the bigger combs are going to do better in the heat than the chickens with no combs. Your lighter colored chickens are going to do better than your darker colored chickens, which will absorb more of the heat through their darker feathers. So anyway, just a little PSA on keeping your chickens cool during a heat wave. If you have any questions, ask them below. I'll answer. Actually, I think once I stop being live, I can't answer questions. So I might have to scroll through. Well, anyway, you can always ask questions on my regular feed, or you can DM me. Happy to answer them. So anyway, you stay cool, keep your chickens cool, and I'll see you on the other side of this. If I knew how to end it.